Greetings and welcome to Beacon Unitarian Universalist Congregation. To our members, friends, and everyone joining us in our virtual congregation on YouTube today. I'm the Reverend Robin Landerman Zucker, minister of this congregation, and I will be hosting our virtual service today for June 14th, 2020, with our music director, Gabriel Hernandez, with Rebecca Prisnick and Kim Angelo providing music, and with our worship associate, Mark James. This congregation is spiritually open and intentionally inclusive. Whoever you are and whomever you love, you are always welcome here. Our members and friends bring many interests, theologies, and viewpoints to our door, and here we trust you will find a common desire for meaningful community and spiritual growth and for relevant religious exploration. Membership in this congregation is open to anyone who chooses to walk with us in the spirit of love and in the search for truth. As I light the chalice, the symbol of our free faith, I invite you to light your own candle or chalice at home and recite the unison words that you find on your screen. We light this chalice with a flame that draws us together. With this flame, we cut through the darkness of isolation and are warmed by the fire of our inner connection. And now Mark has some opening words for us. Mark?
Our opening words today are from Rabindranath Tagore, called Fearful Joy. Is it beyond thee to be glad with the gladness of this rhythm? To be tossed and lost and broken in the whirl of this fearful joy? All things rush on, they stop not, they look not behind. No power can hold them back, they rush on. Keeping steps with that restless, rapid music, seasons come dancing and pass away. Colors, tunes, and perfumes pour in endless cascades in the abounding joy that scatters and gives up and dies every moment.
I wish I knew how it would feel to be free. I wish I could break all these chains holding me. I wish I could say all the things I should say. Say 'em loud, say 'em clear for the whole world to hear. I wish I could share all the love that's in my heart. Remove all the bars that keep us apart. I wish you could know what it means to be me. Then you'd see and agree that everyone should be free. I wish I could give all I'm longing to give. I wish I could live like I'm longing to live. I wish I could do all the things I can do. And though I'm way overdue, I'd be starting anew. Well, I wish I could be like a bird in the sky. How sweet it would be if I found I could fly. Oh, I'd soar to the sun and look down at the sea. And then I'd sing, 'cause I know. Yes, I'd sing because I know. Oh, I'd sing because I know how it feels to be free. Oh, I'd sing 'cause I know. I'd sing 'cause I know. Yeah, 'cause I'd sing 'cause I know how it feels to be free. Please join me in reciting the mission and covenant of Beacon. The mission of Beacon Unitarian Universalist Congregation is to be a welcoming community that embraces diverse thought, belief, and builds a just and compassionate world. Love is the spirit of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve humanity and kindness. Thus do we covenant. Thank you.
Each week, members of the congregation are invited to share personal joy or sorrow in the supportive fellowship of this community. And although we're not together in the same room, we are always connected and sharing each other's joys and sorrows. We have a few that were shared with me this week. Nancy and Dick recently visited their daughter, who has moved to Las Vegas, New Mexico. And they say, "We are so proud of the work she continues to do in support of justice for all. We wish her the best in her courageous efforts to provide support for people newly released from jail, helping them find housing, emotional support, and health care." So we drop this stone for her. And then Kevin has written to say, "Trying to be upbeat and sending positivity to my longtime friend and former colleague, Larry, who experienced a bad bicycle crash Saturday morning. He remembers enjoying a beautiful Saturday morning while riding on a Fort Worth, Texas bike trail, then waking up in a local hospital trauma suite with several injuries. Very fortunately, though, he evidently had a concussion and his brain seems fine. That's great. And this stone is for him." In a somewhat similar vein, we put a stone in for our beloved congregant Skip, who had an unexpected accident and is recovering from an injury to his knee. For all of those, not just in our congregation, but throughout the world, who continue to put so much energy into helping those who have been struck with COVID-19 and their families. It is so wearing and so draining. We send you all of our love and light, and we drop this stone for you. For those throughout the world who have marched in support of Black Lives Matter and in response to the ongoing systemic racism in our country and our world, it has been remarkable and inspiring to see the risks that you've been willing to take and your courage and love in the face of pushback to your peaceful demonstrations. We drop this stone for you, and we also promise as Unitarian Universalists to stand with you in Black Lives Matter. For all of the joys and sorrows that remain unspoken because they are either too tender or too personal to share, we put this stone in for you. Let us remember that everyone is fighting their own private battle. We know not what it is, but because we're human, we know it to be true. So let us be kind, compassionate, flexible, and forgiving with one another. And now I invite you to come into a comfortable position with your arms uncrossed and your feet on the floor, and to close your eyes and just intentionally breathe. Feel your breath. It's a portable, spiritual, physical, and emotional first aid that you carry inside of you everywhere you go. like a portable shrine. So take 4 beats in through your nose slowly and let it out 4 beats through your mouth in a steady stream. See how you can relax your body and create spaciousness, starting at the top of your head and going down to your feet. Just breathe and allow. Just breathe. As you're breathing, feel that spaciousness happening in your face, your shoulders, around your heart, through your body. Feel how good it feels to breathe. While you're breathing, I offer these words by my colleague, Angela Herrera. Do not leave your broken heart at the door. Bring it to the altar of life. Don't leave your anger behind. It has high standards and the world needs vision. Bring them with you and your joy and your passion. Bring your loving and your courage and your fears and your convictions. Bring your need for healing and your power to heal. There is work to do, and we have all we need to do it right here among us. Let us be silent together. Blessed be.
The reading this morning is called Shaky Skaters from Jane Jepka. Roller World is a typical roller rink that rents foul-smelling skates with fragile laces and then pounds your ears senseless with hard-driving rock music. Roller World caters to people with no standards, no taste, and no class, like my family and myself. I love Roller World. No one was born to skate, but there we all are, a room full of unlikely skaters doing our best. A few of us, of course, are hotshots, whizzing around on one foot, backwards half the time, breezy as you please. And another bunch, sad to say, is hopeless. Their 8 little wheels completely ignoring mission control. But round and round the rest of us go, steady and solid, one foot and then the next, in careful time, to the Beastie Boys or Twisted Sister. Folks look pretty darn good out there. I suppose I do too. No one knows that if even one word is spoken in my direction, I will lose my concentration and hit the floor hard. No one realizes that if they come up behind me too fast, I will panic and crumble into the wall. No one can see that this steady skater is so precarious that the act of skating, just skating, takes everything. As we roll around the rink, uncertain of our stride and rhythm, may we yet see the instability of those who surround us. May we help when we are steady, holding those who falter. May we calm the reckless and urge the timid forward. May we keep gentle company with the skaters at our side. Let us move with the spirit of love, and may some quiet presence help us with our laces at the end.
I know this rose will open. I know my fear will burn away. I know my soul will unfurl its wings. I know this rose will open. 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 I know my soul will unfurl its wings. I know its wings. I know its wings. I know this rose. I know this rose. I know this rose. I know this rose. I know my soul will unfurl its wings. I know its wings. I know its wings. I know its rose will know this rose will open.
My sermon today is entitled Learning to Fly, Learning to Fall. During my years in Pittsburgh, I was a frequent flyer, back and forth to Boston mostly to teach. On one return trip to Pittsburgh, my seatmate in a snug two-seat row was a young woman, perhaps 17 or 18, with chipped purple nail polish at the tips of white-knuckled hands, grasping the armrest between us as if her very life depended on it. When I began to adjust my seatbelt, I caught her eye as she looked about anxiously, and I smiled reassuringly. That smile was her cue to begin talking to me, at me really, monologue style at breakneck speed, as if we had just paused briefly to hear the flight attendant spiel about exit rows, and she was just picking up the conversation. While we taxied, I got a mini tutorial on this girl named Lindsay, it turns out, punctuated with breathless admissions of her fear of flying, and I did my best to distract her and calm her in preparation for takeoff. I was remembering a tale told by my colleague, the Reverend Gary Smith, so I paraphrased it for her. Gary recalls a flight back in February of 1998, as he tells it, into the teeth of El Nino, wind and rain on his way to Santa Barbara, transferring at LAX to a 15-passenger commuter plane for the short flight north. We taxied onto the runway, he tells us. The rain is pouring down, the wind is blowing, and even darker clouds are on the horizon. As the plane takes off, it begins to rock from side to side, and the engine noises get louder. I became aware of my fellow passengers, writes Reverend Smith, mostly business-suited adults, but also a family of 5, mother, father, sister, brother, sister. It is the youngest child, a sweet 2-year-old blonde girl, belted into her own seat in a row of 1, who begins to softly sing in the midst of these engine noises and this howling rain and wind. Singing in the midst of this experience of once again defying the law of gravity. just barely. Woe, 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 your boat gently down the stream, she sings. Merrily, 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 life is but a dream. And she continues to sing this same song over and over, sing it without self-consciousness, and sings it not for our entertainment or to show off, but just to sing. And as she sings it, says Smith, can you believe that we begin to sing it with her? First one of us and then another, softly at first, this silly and wonderful song we have known since childhood, until we're all singing. And we've landed in Santa Barbara, and we're safe. And another angel has unexpectedly entered our lives. My story distracted Lindsay enough to keep it together as we gained altitude. Lindsay was learning to fly, and she was learning to fall too, to be with her fear with as much courage and grace as possible. As you absorb this charming tale of turbulence and tenderness, ask yourself, are you more like the white-knuckled flyers or the carefree, grace-filled angel of a girl? Maybe somewhere in between. Would you have sung along with her, even in your abject fear? It is another blue sky, sunny summer day here in Flagstaff. And we are here on terra firma, reflecting together about fear and grace and learning to fly and learning to fall. And Gary's wonderful story leads the way. I reckon that in Christian churches around town, my colleagues might also be live streaming or uploading sermons about fear, about the concept of grace, maybe about the embodiment of it in the death and resurrection of Christ. It is a fearful time. Did she say grace? Okay, I did. So what does grace have to do with us, Unitarian Universalists who have mostly eschewed the theological constructs of our Christian past? What healing, what hope, what benefit does the complex notion of grace hold forth for us? And what does it have to do with courage? An answer simply put, and I guess my sermon in a nutshell, is this. And I know I'm taking liberties with symbols and words here, but here goes. Our fear nails us to a symbolic cross in our lives, while grace, the sacred, universal, non-denominational force that is available all around us and sufficient within us, frees us to be resurrected, lifted up into our bravest and highest selves. It liberates us to rest in what is real, even when that reality is turbulent, unpleasant, unexpected, and unwanted. As the bumper sticker proclaims, grace happens, and it can happen to us, even us, as skeptical, liberal types. If you read the gospel stories about Jesus on the cross, we cannot help but notice his fear. He is in the ultimate fearful situation, and he is a wholly human man subjected to an excruciating death he doesn't deserve. He cries out in his anguish, my God, why have you forsaken me?" And at the moment of death, we're told in Mark, Jesus gave a loud cry and breathed his last. He gave a loud cry. He didn't go quietly. His fear was palpable. Theologians have often argued that there can be no resurrection without crucifixion. And on a metaphorical level, I suppose they're right. There is little realistic chance in our imperfect human lives on this imperfect planet of avoiding sorrow, loss, pain, setbacks, and then ultimately passing into the mystery. How can we disagree with this now as we are living through this unnerving pandemic and all of the restrictions and changes it has brought to our lives. Likewise, unless you've achieved enlightenment and detachment from suffering, and if you've made it that far, please come and see me so I can sign on as your student, then you have had encounters with fear. You have been afraid, deeply afraid. Perhaps you've feared that you are unlovable or unworthy, or that you cannot control outcomes, or that a loved one will disappear or perish from COVID-19 or some other misfortune, or that you may lose your job, or you've lost your job and may not find another one. You may fear that you are just not a good enough person, or partner, or parent, or friend, or minister. Your relationship may follow a script. Your relationships may follow a script dictated by your toxic inner chatterbox and written in the handwriting of your fears. You may dread being alone, or what will become of you in old age, or what will become of you if you leave a toxic relationship. You may fear your grief. You may fear your joy. You may fear your death. You may fear life. Especially in this society beset by systemic racism, by instability, and rising authoritarianism, you may fret that the world is such an inherently unsafe place that fear is the only modus operandi that actually fits. You may believe a bit irrationally that your fear will protect you like a shield in the wake of societal and personal traumas, even as we eventually return to normalcy in our daily lives. Psychologists note a continuing roller coaster of emotions, from sheer horror to grief to anger to uncertainty. The laundry list of worries ranges from fear of flying to nervousness about neighbors and plagues and attending any large gathering ever again. In response, the psychologist Frank Farley warns us that a nation that is terrified of uncertainty is in big trouble. We can't be terrified. He goes on to advise us to take action to combat our fears. He says, get involved in the community, go to a concert, exercise, take up a musical instrument. And although those are all great ideas, and I don't dispute them, I am more inclined to agree, yet again, with the renowned Buddhist teacher, Pema Chodron, who counsels us to become intimate with our fears, rather than endeavoring to pound them into some sort of submission or pretend like they're not there at all. Pema explains that fear is a natural reaction to moving closer to the truth. Of course, the last thing we want is a further introduction to the boogeyman, she says. Mostly we want to get rid of our fears. But Buddha nature, cleverly disguised as fear, kicks our butt into being receptive. So the next time you encounter fear, Pema advises, consider yourself lucky. This is where courage comes in. Usually we think of brave people as having no fear. The truth is, brave people are intimate with fear. This intimacy and this courage, Pema continues, serves us well when things fall apart and we let ourselves be nailed to the present moment. Her teachings remind me of a bumper sticker I've seen that says, it presents the word fear as the acronym Future Events Already Ruined. Ultimately, the decision to become intimate with your fear is one you will need to make on your own. No one can make that decision for you. The decision is yours as to whether you will take yourself down from the cross of your fears and nail yourself to the present moment, to remove the hair shirt of your anger, denial, or procrastination, to allow yourself to take calculated risks that are part of the process of learning to fly. There are many, many role models for facing uncertainty and tragedy with honesty and courage. One such person is Rabindranath Tagore, the Bengali writer from Calcutta who penned our opening words, Fearful Joy. The Reverend Susan Frederick Gray, our UUA president, reminds us that his verses speak of love, prayer, hope, and the challenge of universal care and concern to all people. His poetry is often celebrated as a call to joy and a reminder to serve, a call to love more compassionately and deeply. Yet in his life, he knew more loss, more tragedy than many. His mother died when he was only 13. He lost his wife when she was only 30. Soon after, his daughter died, and then his father, and then his youngest son. Before the death of his children, he lost his beloved sister-in-law who took her own life. Tagore himself, years later, suffered a period of such depression that he considered suicide. He knew the real hardship, the tragedy of life personally, and also socially, as he grieved for the number of poor people in the city of Calcutta, and also as he saw his own people's dignity crushed under British rule. His poems were a reminder of hope, a reminder of love, sometimes just a reminder to celebrate life despite the risk and the abundance of tragedy. Risk is a scary concept, though, because risk by definition involves exposing oneself to hazard, loss, or injury, or disease, as we're seeing right now. Risk is therefore usually internalized as something to avoid. Most companies try to minimize risk in business activity to remain successful. Many people avoid high-risk physical activities to reduce bodily harm. And more often than not, people follow the rules to limit the risk of getting into trouble. In these past weeks, we've seen people willing to break the understood rules in order to speak out against systemic racism, and they are truly brave. Yet, it also seems that people fear taking risks because they associate that with failure. Yet avoiding all risk isn't particularly helpful in the real world. Of course, we want to wear masks and we want to take other safety measures to avoid the very real risk of COVID-19. But what about less deadly risks in how we approach our lives every day? The title of my sermon, Learning to Fly, Learning to Fall on Fear and Courage. Well, that word courage, it isn't always about rushing headlong into some situation with your sword drawn and ready. It really, more often, is about feeling the fear and then allowing yourself to rest in the grace. You may fly, you may fall, maybe both. You will certainly learn, and I believe, grow. You may be a disaster, a falling star, as it were, or you may actually find yourself resting in the grace of the world, in the words of the writer Wendell Berry. What might it mean for you in your life to rest in the grace of the world with all of its beauty, all of its ugliness, all of its certainty, and all of its risk? Grace exists as a force that meets us where we are and doesn't leave us where it found us. That's a quote from Annie Lamott. Yet there is a catch. When we accept this gift by resting in the grace of the world, we must in turn accept what is actually real in our lives. Accept what's real as real. Good or bad, painful or joyful, desired or thrust upon us, moment by moment. We drop the illusion that we can control everything that happens to us in a random universe, or that only good things will occur in our lives because we are essentially good people. Haven't we learned that that equation doesn't make sense and isn't always going to pan out. We recognize and honor an inner grace that taps the inherent divinity that might heal us, heal the planet, and heal our relationships with other people. In fact, more often than not, grace occurs through our willingness to drop our self-pity or our self-righteousness or the facade of courage and be vulnerable to falling. It is then we allow some wind to get under our wings so we can fly. As the Reverend Victoria Safford tells us, recalling an old Ojibwa song, sometimes I go about in pity of myself, and all the while the wind is bearing me across the sky. What wind might get under your wings and bear you across even a turbulent sky? I'll take as my flight instructor a human Jesus or a human Buddha or an average Joe, for that matter, who has known fear and who has made an attempt to embrace grace. I'll take a world where both exists, and I encourage you to do the same, because that's the world we have, and we really have no choice in the matter. Children, like the girl on the airplane, the little singing blonde girl, she may reside more naturally and blessedly so in a state of grace. But we adults, we know that life is not a dream or an endless stream of rowing merrily. When despair for the world grows in us, like it did my seatmate, Lindsay, when we wake in the night at the least sound and fear of what life may be, let us wrestle honestly with these fears. Let us love ourselves through the turbulence and the rain. Let us discover our power as we learn to fly and we learn to fall. The fearful and fearless Pema Chodron gives us yet another story to lead us from fear to grace and back out again to our daily rounds. She writes, "One of my favorite stories about Jarvis Masters, a prison inmate currently sentenced to death row, who took vows as a Buddhist from behind bars, was when he unintentionally helped some other inmates connect with the absolute vast quality and openness of their own minds. There is a teaching that says that behind all hardening and tightening and rigidity of the heart, there's always fear. But if you touch fear, behind fear, there is a soft spot. And if you touch that soft spot, you touch the vast blue sky." One day there was a seagull out on the yard at San Quentin. It had been raining and the seagull was there paddling around in a puddle. One of the inmates picked up something in the yard and was about to throw it at the bird. Jarvis didn't even think about it. He automatically put his hand up to stop the man. Of course, this escalated the man's aggression, and he started yelling. Who the hell did Jarvis think he was? And why did Jarvis care so much about some blankety blank bird? Everyone started circling around them, just waiting for a fight. The other inmate was screaming at Jarvis, "Why did you do that?" And out of Jarvis's mouth came the words, "I did that because that bird's got wings." Everybody got it. It simply stopped their minds, softened their hearts, and then there was silence. Blessed be.
Hello, please join me in singing Just as Long as I Have Breath. Just as long as I have breath, I must answer yes to life. Though with pain I made my way, still with hope I meet each day. If they ask what I did well, tell best. I must answer yes to truth. In my dream and in my dark, always that elusive spark. If they ask what I did best, tell them I said yes to truth. Just as long as my heart beats, I must answer yes to love. Disappointment pierced me through, still I kept on loving you. If they ask what I did best, tell them I said yes to love.
The spirit of generosity and stewardship lives among us at Beacon. Each week, whether we are together physically or not, we take an offering to support Beacon, our programs, and our community partners. While we're not together, and you can't really put anything in this beautiful wooden bowl, we invite you to go to our website, beaconuu.com, and make a secure online donation through the Banco application. You will see the donate button on our homepage. Or you can send a check to us at our address in Flagstaff with offering in the note. Either way, we so appreciate your generosity, especially during this time of challenge. At the end of our service, when we're here in the sanctuary, we come together in a circle and we hold hands during the benediction. And so I'm going to ask you to imagine us together holding hands, because regardless of location, we are Beacon, always connected, always a community. But while we are imagining that, I offer these words from the poet Warshon Shire, an excerpt from the poem What They Did Yesterday Afternoon. Late at night, I held an atlas in my lap, ran my finger across the whole world and asked, where does it hurt? And it answered, everywhere, everywhere, everywhere. Help heal the world. Amen.